أنا ما أحطك من الخطر.
قل له هاي الحكاية منك مقبولة بس أنت بتشيل فشي.
This Iraqi is angry with the Americans. He's afraid these Marines have damaged his vehicle. In Iraq, this could be a potentially dangerous situation. Fortunately for the Marines, it's all practice. This is Mojave Viper in 29 Palms, California, where Marines train for the deserts of the Middle East. Today's urban combat consists of searching vehicles and houses and interacting with the local populace. But it wasn't always this way.
During Fallujah, I mean, the battle, who knows where the battle is. You make entry to a house, you clear the first few rooms. In that back room, there could be that guy sitting with the RPK just waiting to light you up.
Target!
Before Fallujah, there was Hue City. In the mid-1960s, the Vietnam War was predominantly a rural conflict. Marines were mostly fighting a guerrilla army in knee-deep rice paddies and jungle mud in what were counter-insurgency missions. On January 31, 1968, the Tet Offensive changed the face of the Vietnam War. During Tet, the Vietnamese Lunar New Year celebration, the North Vietnamese Army and the Viet Cong guerrilla fighters launched a coordinated attack throughout the southern part of the country. The enemy had invaded the largest cities in South Vietnam.
When we first got into Hue City, first got into the fight, hotel company was to seize the public health complex so that we could provide fires in support of Fox Company so that they could take the tough objective of the Treasury. I had fortunately attached a 106 recoilless rifle. I salivate every time I think about that weapon. Big old anti-tank weapon.
The Marines were trying to cross the street.
From behind me, a Lance Corporal says, "Skipper, I know how to do this." He said, "You know, I'll roll my gun right down the steps here, this Hue University. We'll turn my gun. We'll fire that round. Sir, you know how big the round is. They'll pull down their heads. Sir, you know how much backblast there is. You can run the whole company across the street if you want to under that backblast." But you see, just what that Lance Corporal said. That round struck in around that machine gun. They closed up and ran. The backblast was such we ran an entire platoon across the street. That's called Lance Corporal ingenuity and PFC power.
Prior to January 1968, the last time Marines fought in an urban setting was in the streets of Seoul during the Korean War. In Vietnam, imagination was one of the best weapons in a commander's arsenal.
We all have good doctrine, and you must understand that doctrine. You've got to be doctrinally sound, but you should never be doctrinally bound. What you need to do is you need to use your imagination, and you need to adapt to the situation you're in. Let's just take the 106 recoilless rifle. That rifle, that's an anti-tank weapon. But look what we used it for, and it became very effective.
The lessons of Hue only reinforced the principles of urban warfare.
Well, first of all, I think we learned a great deal from Hue City. We didn't do it very well. I mean, the young Marines, they did a heck of a job. But from an operational level, we didn't do the things that really are required to be done. There are three enduring principles in the fight for an urban area. The first is you always isolate that urban area, or isolate a portion of it, depending where you're going. We never did that. Neither we nor the North Vietnamese ever accomplished that. And it cost both of us. The second is you select your entry point into the urban area. In our case, we were forced to go to a specific entry point. The third is the selection of how you're going to take the fight. Our decision, or General Cheatham's and others' decisions, were to do it block by block, house by house, room by room, which turned out to be the right decision.
These tactics were used during the urban fighting in Fallujah, Iraq.
Fallujah 2, they did it right. The city was isolated. They had a diversion. They had branches and sequels developed. And as they went into that city, they went into it exceptionally well. And they took it down, in my judgment, as a city should be taken down.
It came down to Fallujah. It was just a direct assault. I mean, big assault since the Battle of Hue City.
We just found a huge cache. It's like 50 120 rounds, various rockets, other mortars, and mortar systems.
We knew this is what every Marines came in the infantry to do, just to go down and take down that enemy. And with our training, as you know, it was a little rough at times due to not knowing that we're going to be doing a big assault like this.
And I think anybody who has fought in the urban fight would agree. I think the young Marines who have fought in the Fallujah, it's very, very intense. It's very stressful. There's this tremendous debris, this tremendous din, this noise. There's dust and all the like, and your fight is always close. But once you close with the enemy, I mean, it's a 35-meter fight.
The basic skills of room clearing, and with that did help. But as a big picture, overall, we adapted and overcame.
Adapting to the changing face of the battlefield in Iraq is precisely what is taking place at 29 Palms, California. Mojave Viper is the Marine Corps' last training stop before units deploy to Iraq. As the battlefield changes, so does Mojave Viper.
Now with Mojave Viper nowadays, again, the war is always ever changing. Here you get better opportunities to train a little bit longer. You have a little bit better instruction, more in-depth instruction, because it's always changing.
Slowly creep up. Remember, we got a lot of gear on, so we gotta be a little bit methodical, and at the same
time, going back to talking to the locals, integrating the Iraqi security forces in there, getting more in depth, getting the Marines to learn a little bit more culture.
Urban combat training is conducted at a special range complex in 29 Palms. It comes complete with Iraqi towns and Iraqi role players.
Americans like stay overnight.
This is Mojave Viper in 29 Palms. Did this last year before we went to Iraq, and it was some real good training before we left for Iraq. In the sense that they taught us basically how the people interact with us and how we're supposed to interact with the people over there. And it seems to have changed a lot, which leads me to suspect that everything's kind of changing in Iraq. How we're trying to turn the country back over to the Iraqi people, which is a good thing, and never really had that last year.
The key thing that we do is provide a realistic, accurate, and relevant training venue for Exercise Force Marines preparing for OIF. No two Mojave Vipers are ever the same, and as a result, Marines who came through Mojave Viper a year ago that are coming through again are going to see a different exercise.
Earlier urban combat missions, such as Hue City and Falluja, saw Marines fighting aggressively from house to house. As the fight has now moved from cities to small towns, urban combat has evolved into interacting with Iraqi locals while Marines search for insurgents.
What Tet of 68 and Hue did was it scared people about urban conflict. And the nation, both the Army and the Marine Corps, the nation as a whole, went into urban denial. And for almost 10 years, we were in urban denial. We're not going to fight in an urban area. Well, obviously, that's an insane thought. One only has to look at the littorals. One only has to look at the world today. You're always going to fight in an urban area. Now, do I hope that some of the lessons that we wrote about in Hue helped them in that fight? I am. I hope they did. I think they did. But I'm so very proud that they know how to fight in the urban area. You know, our young men and women today are fighting continually in Iraq, in urban areas, and they do it well.